This video contains the best Super Dragon attacks for every Town Hall level during the Super Dragon Spotlight event. With this new event, the Super Dragon will give you a bonus in ice cubes and it will be instantly boosted when you unlock it. So let's break each of these attacks down so you can have the most success with the Super Dragons. Now, starting between Town Hall 8 and Town Hall 11, you're going to be using the same strategy, Zap Super Dragons, but it is going to be different for those that have siege machines and those that don't. For Town Hall 8 and Town Hall 9, you're typically going to run 4 lightning to remove 2 air defenses. This will then allow you to use a hero dive to set part of your funnel, which you should be aiming to go for another air defense. So bring in wall breakers if you need to, but for the most part, you want to try and go in for that air defense. Set the other side of the funnel with either a troop, like an Electro Dragon in the CC, or a Super Dragon, which then allows you to send in the rest of your Super Dragons into the base. Any other supportive spells are always incredibly nice, but for the most part, your Super Dragons will be able to easily clear through the rest. As long as there are no more air defenses, pretty much the Super Dragons have free reign through the rest of the base for a super easy 3-star. Now for Town Hall 10 and Town Hall 11, you're going to still use the same strategy, but you have siege machines this time. For this strategy, you honestly have a lot of flexibility. You're typically still running your heroes to go in for 1 or 2 air defenses, which is very much going to help the strategy. While with your lightning spells, since it only takes 3 lightning to remove an air defense, you can use this on 1 to 3 air defenses and just go for 1 air defense with your heroes. But sometimes you might want to go in for 2. So this allows you to use 3 lightning on an air defense, use another 3 on another one, and then use your 3 air defenses over an air sweeper, which can really help. For the most part, you can use the siege barrack in order to help you set part of a funnel, especially if you're using the king alone. You could possibly even have the queen alone, which can also remove an air defense, which can always be incredibly helpful. Creating one part of the funnel with your Super Dragon, which then allows you to send the rest of your Super Dragons in, since you've already created one part of your funnel with your siege machine or your heroes. This really does work incredibly well, and at Town Hall 11, having the Grand Warden with his Rage Gem and Eternal Tome very much can make this strategy completely unstoppable. Now, for you Town Hall 12 players, you have access to the Overgrowth spells, which means you can honestly run double Overgrowth with the Siege Barrack. This will allow you to set a really nice funnel on the first part. Having the King, Queen, and the Siege Barrack, you can very easily set one part of your funnel without having to really worry about anything. Of course, you can set the other side of your funnel with either a seed or with the baby dragon or a super dragon, but for the most part, you just want to make sure that you have one side of the funnel set using something to set the other side of the funnel, which then really allows you to send in your super dragons right the way into the base. This is where the overgrowth spells come into play, where you're going to use those overgrowth spells in order to make sure that these super dragons are staying within the base. This is really a huge help just to make sure that your super dragons are continuously moving in. Around this, you should also have possibly something like root riders to help open walls, which can help something like your archer queen entering into the base and possibly removing the enemy CC and the town hall, while your super dragons underneath an eternal tome and the rage gem from the warden can very much power through. That second overgrowth is very easily able to control funneling, and overall you can absolutely overkill most bases with the use of the super dragon in this faction, as for the most part they do an insanely good job at making sure to control your entire attack and be able to make sure that the super dragons are staying in the base for you to 3-star quite easily. Now for you Town Hall 13 players, you have access to the Blizzard super dragons. This is a pretty consistent version, since Town Hall 13 super dragons aren't necessarily the strongest. However, using a blizzard to go in for high amounts of value, this can really be anything, to be honest. The Eagle Artillery, Inferno Towers, Expos, you name it. You just want to make sure that you're using the invisibility spells every 4 seconds and the rage spell to keep them powered through. So try to keep them within that rage for as long as humanly possible. Otherwise, they should get a nice amount of value. You can set part of your funnel with the use of Super Barbarians, as they are a little bit more consistent to run, and this allows you to deal with both the enemy CC, which also then allows you to remove the Town Hall. In some instances, you could bring in a Super Wall Breaker to get into the Town Hall compartment and clear that with your heroes. Now, you do also want to make sure that you are helping the Super Dragons on the other side. So if you don't want to use the Overgrowth spell, you can use some Super Barbarians to cut off part of a funnel on the other side, meaning the Super Dragons now stay on the inside of the base. So while you're sending in the Super Dragons, you have your Royal Champion and the Grand Warden to move in with them. You've got your heroes to clear the Town Hall. This makes it a lot easier for you, especially since you have access to the healing tome of the Grand Warden, which will really help. And the rage spells also very much help the Super Dragons cut down anything like butter. It is really dang easy for them to get a large amount of value, and you should still have a large amount of both the Super Dragons and some of your heroes up. Even if you don't have abilities, they're going to be incredibly good at clearing through the rest, and it's going to be definitely a very strong way for you to 3-star most bases. Now for Town Hall 14, my personal favorite army with the use of the Super Wizards Super Minion Clone Blimp is very good with Super Dragons. You'll mainly want to start off by creating part of the funnel by using Super Barbarians. Since you have access to 3 super troops, this is a very good pairing to be able to set the funnel. Then you could send in an Ice Hound, which is a very good tank for something like this, and then that allows you to send in the Super Dragons, Balloons, Warden, and your Blimp. You should use an Overgrowth spell over the Eagle Artillery, especially if you can very easily create a part of a funnel, but also make sure that you're stopping it. A Freeze is really good against a Sweeper, especially if you're going into it, and you want to use your Invisibility followed by a Clone, and then the Rage, and then timing your invisibility spells every 4 seconds to get the most value out of your Super Wizards and your Super Minions. From this point, you've really got a lot of power with maybe a Rage spell to keep your Super Dragons moving. It's really nice, especially when you have the Healing Tome with those Super Dragons, but you can also have your heroes go in for something like the Eagle Artillery or a different area of the base around where you started your Super Dragon with the Ice Hound. For the most part, you just want to make sure that you're cutting the base down. And unlike Electro Dragons, Super Dragons don't need support from your heroes to be super effective. They have a lot of HP and they do a lot of damage. So while your heroes are working themselves around, you're going to be able to have your abilities and really easily dominate through any Town Hall 14 design, as this is a very flexible and incredibly strong version of Super Dragon. And for you at Town Hall 15 and Town Hall 16, Super Dragons are already in a great spot, so using the recall spell with them is an incredibly good option. This works really well against both box and diamond type designs. Typically in a diamond design, you're going to be charging in for the Town Hall. You do want to make sure that you're setting part of the funnel, so Super Barbarians are always great to bring, but you also want to make sure that you are getting a clear direction set so you can enter into the base, clear the Town Hall, and get out of there. 4 healers is usually recommended for this. The Unicorn will also provide healing like that 5th healer, but for the most part, you want to make sure that the Queen's going into the base so you can use an invisibility, and only having 4 healers makes it possible for you to recall the entire portion. This really does make it easier for you, so once the Town Hall is removed, you can kind of leave her alone for a little bit, but then you'll want to make sure that you recall her out. You also have access to the use of the Flame Flinger to help cut down one section, while you also have the Barbarian King and the recalled Archer Queen to clear through and create more of a funnel. Having an Overgrowth spell as well to provide a little bit of support and make sure that you're able to get that entire section cleared and get closer to some of those key defenses is definitely a must. But this will also allow you to have your Super Dragons enter the base. With a early Rage and an early Grand Warden ability, this can really clear through the Town Hall, whether you're hitting a box design or going through a given section if you're hitting a diamond design. But for the most part, However, the rage spells being paired with super dragons will allow them to cut through anything smooth like butter, which will really help. Having that back end royal champion is definitely going to help with the haste vial, and as long as your queen still is able to move through with the recall, you honestly really can't stop this army because the super dragons are just going to do a ton of damage. Of course, if your recall queen doesn't really go to plan, then this attack might falter, but it is a very strong attack nonetheless if you really want to use super dragons up here at the higher town hall levels. With each of these super dragon attacks, they're incredibly fun, all thanks to just having access to 2 other super troops outside of the super dragon. So this is a very nice event to try out super dragon attacks and see which of them are your favorites. Of course, I would consider checking out my top 3 Town Hall 15 if you're looking for a post-event attack that's going to work really, really well and really consistently.